Let's do it live. Hello and welcome everyone to the Coming of Shadows, the Babylon 5 Retrospective. This week on the show, we're going to be looking at episode 18, Confessions and Lamentations. But before we do, let me welcome my co-host, the man who's all about planetary redecorating. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, Babylon 5 fans.
Good evening. Yes, good evening. Cam, we have a little bit of administrative stuff to do, channel stuff. Do you have anything before we do that?
Well, I would like to point out that Vicky said that she liked your intro music, so I think that's the first person that's ever mentioned that. So,
well, it is the Babylon. It's a Babylon 5. Just so people know, it's Babylon 5 introduction music, but it's not from the show. They made it for the show, but they didn't use it. It wasn't the opening theme. It's like, I just Googled YouTube and I found it's a Babylon 5 alternate music that was maybe it was used at some point, but it's not the part of the opening credits or anything like that. And it is it's supposedly free to use too. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
Right on.
Yeah. Okay. We don't have any. I think we should bring everybody in for the this little bit of administration. Wouldn't you agree, Cam?
Certainly.
All right. Let's bring everybody in. Let's bring in Jeff.
Hello.
Oh, I lost my thing. There we go. Jason and our special guest who's here to class of the place, of course, Dean. Gentlemen, hello.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone.
All right. So before we get started, let's just let me appreciate everybody who's
Tom's got a surprise on it for us, I guess.
Sort of. Good to see Madman in the show.
Hi, Madman.
Vicky is here. Vicky, I think she's
Dave is here. Yeah.
Could be. Dave's here, giving us greetings from the Narn delegation as per usual.
Yep.
Good to see you, Dave. Who else do we have? Is that it? Everybody else is hiding, keeping themselves quiet. It says we got 8 watching the show, so maybe a few more will come in. Let's hope. All right, but before we get into the show, we have there's a little special announcement through years of work and effort fighting the YouTube algorithms. We finally passed the last milestone that we needed to become monetized.
Yay!
That was 30,000 watch hours, and we were sitting there at $2.99 for a couple days. Sorry, $2,999. It was pretty until Cam went and watched. He said he would
everything.
Watch the video. Yeah,
he just put it on play the whole.
Let it play.
I watched one of our lowest watched videos.
To get all of our videos are good, so it doesn't matter.
This one should be high ranking if my thinking is right.
Let's hope so. Yeah. So we've crossed the threshold. I put in my request They say it takes 24 hours for the request to be processed, and then it'll take between 2 to 4 weeks to get to be for them to review it or something. So I don't know. Who knows what happens? But
Hey, Snob, can I burst your bubble?
what's that?
I had read something about them lowering the threshold to 500.
What?
No, they didn't. They didn't lower it. Not yet, anyway. But anyway, and they thankfully they sent me a little YouTube. The people they sent me a little congratulations video. It was very nice of them.
Oh,
so
sweet.
I thought I would play that for you.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's personalized. See if you can figure out which one is me and which one is Cam. All right, let's just play that quick, and then we'll get going here.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, 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 happy, happy,
Cam is
joy,
right.
joy, joy.
You know,
All right,
now
thanks to you.
that you're monetized, you won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, we're not monetized yet.
Claimed.
We're just in the so they're going to be checking us out, I guess. So maybe we should we'll have to turn down the sexism and the misogyny on the channel.
Oh no.
Yeah, at least for the first 5 minutes.
Fun.
Yeah.
Can't say any bad words for
I'm gonna have to turn it down at least until we get all
Yeah.
that stuff. Anyway, all right. So that's good. So maybe sometime in the next month, we'll let you know when it happens. You'll be able to use those things, the super chats and the memberships and all that stuff.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not holding my breath.
Where's Weatherman when we need him?
Yeah. Where's Weatherman? Oh, all right. Umbro's jumped in. Good to see you, man. All right. Anyway, so that's it. Let's go right to the trivia answers from last episode, and then we'll jump right into the show. Okay, let's go here. Trivia. So, trivia questions from last week. What kind of personality does Londo think Veer has? What is the name of the sword with which the Centauri fight the Morongo? What is the race of the dead guy Sheridan discovers in Gray Sector? What is the nickname for Gray Sector? And what is the name of Londo's friend who comes to visit? All right. And let's put the answers out there. Of course. Londo says Veer has a negative personality. The Kutari is the name of the sword. The Merkab is the race of the dead guy that Sheridan finds. And, of course, very prominent in this episode, the Gray Sector is nicknamed the Triangle, and Londo's friend, who he kills at the end of the episode, is Urza Jado. All right.
Number 3. Okay.
That's what I thought, too.
I didn't make the connection until you just showed the answers to the trivia. Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly.
All right. So, anybody got anything? We should jump right in. Let's jump right in. Cam,
should we go? Yeah, you got to do the background
Cam,
thing.
do the summary, and I'll do my summary, and then we'll get right into it. Right into the show. Let's go.
Okay, we have episode 40 overall, episode 18 of season 2, Confessions and Lamentations, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Original air date, May 24th, 1995, and production order 218, so right in line. Deadly plague threatens the Markab race with extinction, leaving Franklin in a race against time to find the cure before even more species are infected. All
right. So the episode starts off before the opening theme. We find out we're in the CNC. We find out there's a missing Mercab ship. Then it cuts to the doctor, and he's talking to a Mercab doctor, and they're in, I guess, somebody's quarters, Mercab's quarters. And there's been 4 dead Mercab in the last 3 days, and they've all been of natural causes, but Dr. Franklin is a little suspicious. And then we're back to Babylon 5, where Ivanova is sending out the squadron to check to try to find this Mercab ship, and she also tells Kefler that the captain says that no more of your freelance flying around trying to find that thing
Whatever.
you saw in hyperspace.
Yeah.
So that's a reference to something from the past there. All right. So there's kind of two things going on here. There is the Mercab storyline, which is the main one, of course, and then there's Sheridan eating dinner with the Minbari. I'm going to go over that real quick first, and then we'll talk. I'll go through the Mercab stuff. So Delenn invites Sheridan to her quarters to have a dinner. They have dinner. There's numerous rituals in the cooking of the dinner and the eating of the dinner. Sheridan seems a little put off by that. And finally, at the end of you take a bite, you meditate. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Sheridan falls asleep during the meditation port at the end, and then he's called back to the Mercab transport once they get on the ship. All right, so we'll focus on the Mercab. So, as I mentioned, Zeta Squadron is sent out. They find the ship. Everybody's dead on it. Franklin they bring the ship back. Franklin investigates, and he finds out from the doctor that it is a plague. The guys that he was looking at before were not died of natural causes, and the doctor tells him, the Mercab doctor tells him that the plague is 100% fatal and it is 100% contagious. We then find out that this is an old disease that they haven't seen for hundreds of years, but it was originally, when they found it, they felt it was a punishment for immorality by gods. And of course, they're asked, hey, does this spread to other species? Dr. Franklin asks, and the Mercab doctor tells him, we don't know. We then have a small Mercab girl. She's going through the station. She's looking for her dad. She finds her dad. He's dead. Delenn finds her, and that's kind of a hook for Delenn to come into the scene. We then have Franklin. He's briefing his staff. They end up putting the entire he's briefing the entire Babylon 5 staff, I should say. They decide to put Babylon 5 on quarantine. And they have a bit of a concern with people getting upset with the Mercab and maybe trying to do violence against them. Garibaldi has to worry about that. Then the Mercab ambassador comes, and he's basically a conspiracy theory guy. He goes all these conspiracy theories about what Sheridan's trying to do, and he decides that he wants all of his people to get together in isolation, and that sort of deals with the problem that Sheridan had, whether to quarantine them all together or not. They all get together. The doctor, who is a Mercab, goes back to he's in the lab. They find somebody sick, and no one seems very keen to go in and deal with the sick Mercab. All the other doctors are a little bit cautious. The Mercab doctor decides to go into the ISO lab. They lock him in there, and he examines the patient. Meanwhile, Delenn and Lanier go into the isolation zone by themselves to help the Mercab. We have a scene with the Mercab being beat up. Garibaldi stops it. The Mercab doctor eventually gets sick, and they start doing tests on him. They say that they need to see how the disease progressed. They haven't seen it because it happened so swiftly. The Mercab doctor eventually, of course, dies. Dr. Franklin has a bit of a fit, but then he does find the cure, and he heads off with 500 vials of the cure to give to the Mercab. Goes into the isolation area where they are, and he gets there too late. Everybody is dead, except, of course, the Lynn and Lanier. They're fine. A little bit shook up, though. And we find out at the end through a news report that the Mercab homeworld is been wiped out. 2 billion people are dead. And there's a bit of an inappropriate joke at the end of the episode that we could talk about. But that's the episode. basically it. All right, Cam.
Yeah, we've it's pretty focused on the A storyline, which is the plague. The little bit with Sheridan and the Minbari dinner is kind of a very small B plot, and I guess you could say that Delenn and Lanier's interaction with the plague is kind of a tangent to the plague plot, but certainly part of it. I didn't really have anything else. I guess you could say that the little bit with Kefir and Ivanova and of course Sheridan, was kind of relaying orders through her. But that's what I've got for plots.
All right.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same thing. I didn't even really consider that second one or the way we open up, where he goes to dinner. That to me really wasn't even I wouldn't call it a plot per se,
Yeah, well, okay. So you're right. There's not a whole lot to it. It's kind of a lighthearted bit, going over the rituals and Lanier having to work for 2 days to do all this. So it's giving us a little bit of insight into the Minbari.
One does not sleep when cooking.
Right. But it does.
That's a bad idea.
kind of.
If you're smoking meat. If you're smoking meat.
Right. But it does kind of. This is kind of a spoiler for the end here, but the relationship between Delenn and Sheridan really takes a jump up. It seems in this episode, and so that kind of led into it. But I guess we could talk about that.
So why don't we talk about the dinner thing? We'll get it out of the way because it's fairly short. But I did have some points about it and stuff. But yeah, go ahead. Jeff, do you want to start off?
Sure. Well, I think there's something like 15 spices or so that have to be blessed first, and then after that, then there's a whole, every step of the cooking process. There's some sort of blessing that has to happen, and and then Sheridan is trying to figure out how to fit in, and then the whole let's meditate. First you have to take a piece of the food. You have to offer some. You have to exchange bowls, I think was the first thing. And then after the exchange of the bowls, then you have to offer something to the person who prepared the meal. And then you have to offer something to what's his name? The one, the one from 1,000 years ago.
Valen.
Valen, yes, yes. And then you take one bite and then you meditate. Sounds like the food would get cold if it wasn't already by the time you get around to getting finished. But I mean, it's interesting, and of course, Sheridan falls asleep while meditating.
Yeah, I like his denial of that too. He's like, no,
and I don't snore.
And also I like the tiny little forks that they were using. For that.
Yeah. And you have to use it with your right hand, which would really suck if you're left-handed. But I mean, it was cute. Very tangential to the whole overall, But I think the biggest thing that you start to learn is there might be a little bit of spark between Sheridan and Delenn maybe going on here. They're kind of definitely hinting, and it gets, as we proceed through the episode later on, when we get the other plot, it becomes very apparent, that she has, she touches his hand and touches his face, and and it's kind of little unusual behavior for Minbari, if she is still Minbari, I guess, so
I wanted to mention about that. There's a point where they're talking and she turns away and she leaves, and they've had this little touching of hands and stuff. She looks like a giddy little schoolgirl.
She does.
On her face, I'm like, wow, that is really over the top. I thought. I mean, maybe she
was about to cry in that one point. Not during this. This, of course, did not happen during the meal, but at one point, she looks like she's kind of tearing up.
It's later. It's later on when she's talking to him for something.
Right.
But
we'll get into that. So
wow, they really got a thing going there.
They kind of ramped. They went from like to
I will say that in the last couple episodes, I've noticed that whenever Sheridan talks to Delin, he kind of acts a little nervous and he's a little more, oh yeah, what do you want? Like he's a little bit different than when he would normally act.
Maybe, yeah.
Less business and more like like his face lights up a little bit. So
and there is a point at which he says, call me John, and and we'll lead into why that happens. But let's hear what everybody else has to say about the dinner. I thought it was kind of fun, a little lighthearted, a little trying to obviously build something up to it. But I'm curious what others say on it. So
I want to say Lanier's a third wheel.
Yeah, very much so.
Take the hint, buddy. Leave.
Well, it's definitely a character moment, and it's one of those things. And again, you've got your star of the show has to have something to do this time, but I think that it's laying the groundwork for stuff to happen later, because this is not out of the blue. It's not out of left field. When she first came out of the cocoon, there was already some kind of a spark there, some chemistry, because there was the hemming and hawing and the nervous and the whatever has been there from the very beginning. So I think that this is a planned trajectory. And it's not something that just kind of evolved in the story, because a lot of times when you get into a TV series, you don't know what your chemistry among your ensemble is going to be. You don't know who your breakout stars are going to be. You don't know who the audience is going to tap into and identify with, who's going to be popular. Eventually, all of this stuff shakes out, and you figure out, okay, well, the audience is more interested in this particular character, so we'll write more stories with this particular character, and on and on. And like with DS9, the whole relationship between Odo and Kira kind of just came out of nowhere because of the chemistry that it was like, oh hey, well, let's just throw these two together. This doesn't feel like that. This doesn't feel like it's a natural evolution just of the actors and the chemistry. This feels like this thing, Straczynski has this planned out from the very beginning because of how they acted the first time they met.
Well, and they also had dinner together because he invited her to dinner, right?
Right, and this is reciprocal, and we're gonna, well, you invited me, so now I invite you, and it's a moment of levity that I think also serves to set up the tragedy that comes after that, because you're laughing at this thing, this silly little bit, and then suddenly there's a plague on the station, and I think there's an emotional hit there that's made a little bit more intense by the contrast.
And remember, she takes the biggest risk of anybody. Right?
She
goes to help the people.
Well, and that adds to that dimension of the relationship between Delin and Sheridan going wherever it's going to end up going. Now he's got this opportunity to get to know her a little bit better, and there's a risk now that he's going to lose that, and if she dies, then all of this gets taken away from him. Yeah. So that adds another layer to this plague. But one of the things I like about this episode, just in a general sense, is the fact that starting out, we have three storylines. We have Delin and Sheridan doing their little dinner, da-di-da-da-da. You have Zephyr doing his thing, going out and searching for this ship and getting called back by Sheridan because reasons. And then you have the plague. And I originally, when I saw this, oh no, we're going to try to do three storylines in this thing. But I like the fact that all three of them merged
almost
into the
immediately.
same one, and it all became the same story. You just had those three things became the different entry points into this one crisis plot. And I thought that was a smart way to go. I'm glad we didn't have to deal with A to B to C to B to A to C to B to A to C, just bouncing around like that, because they don't cut those together very well.
No,
I'm kind of surprised, Jason, because I kind of thought that the Kefir storyline was just I didn't really see it as merging. I just saw it as being dropped.
What he was doing basically.
No, but it merged in because they pulled Kefir so his squadron could go get the ship. They go find the ship and bring it back in. At the same time, it's just enough of a reminder of the Shadow War and all of the other stuff that's sitting out there that we don't touch in this episode otherwise. But it's just one more little thing. Kefir, it's a little nugget. Kefir keeps looking for that shadow ship in the hyperspace. And Sheridan's like, "Whoa, this is bad news. Let's pull that back in. We don't want to cause that problem," because now Sheridan has knowledge that we didn't have before about who these people are.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, let's get Kefir out of the danger zone here, please. Let's not do that." So that piece is still there, but and that just serves to remind us that this other danger is out here. But now here we're going to focus on this plague for this episode.
Let's not let's not lose our Top Gun. On a solo mission.
Right.
I wanted to mention that. It seemed to me, I'm curious what everybody thinks. The look on Sheridan's face when he found out that he was, Kefir's looking at hyperspace, it seemed to give that look like, oh, we better put a stop to this because I don't want people knowing about it right now.
It seemed
to have that.
We're not ready yet. It goes back.
Well,
to
I think
that.
I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it, but I think it's also, hey, we don't want to lose our top pilot, and it's one of these, oh crap, these people don't know what it is that they're probably going to get us into. Let's pull them back in. I think it's a couple of different things.
I assumed it was more like he doesn't want them to find out about this as opposed to worried about losing him, but it could.
Well, I think that's what Vicky is saying too, and she's right.
Both.
Because it's a little bit of both. He doesn't want to lose him, but until at least until the time is right, and also doesn't want him. He doesn't want his curiosity, Kefir's curiosity, compromising the plans that are in motion.
Yeah,
that was my thought.
Yeah. We heard a couple of episodes back how the shadows were moving very carefully, and the Vorlons weren't ready. But anything that would reveal the presence of the shadows had a threat of escalating the war.
Yeah, he was
kind of. Vorlons were ready. So I think from Sheridan's point of view, this was his tactical thinking. He's there going, if Kefir finds something, A, he's one of our best pilots. He'll probably get killed. B, if he reveals the presence of the shadows, will they move much faster? And with everybody not being ready, is this a risk we can take?
Yeah, he was heeding the warning from Delenn and Kosh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Vicky's also right on this, as it gives Susan a chance to exert her authority.
Yeah, in a really good way. It's difficult to write authoritative roles without the person coming across as being a little bit of a dick. But I think what they did there, she came across strong, and it was like, no, this is an order now. You do not, because I've told you you do not, and I'm your superior officer. And it was done really well.
I thought it was done really well as well. Perfect. Yeah. Perfectly, in fact.
Yeah, good little scene.
All right. Cam.
Sir.
What's next?
Well, I guess, we could get more into the main storyline here with the plague. It starts off with, kind of a scene that you might not anticipate is going this direction with Franklin and Marquab Doctor. And they kind of have, this snarky exchange, where, the guy's kind of pointing out that Franklin's a little arrogant or, high-handed. And so he's kind of playing it off as, oh, you're you don't trust me, or, you got to stick your nose in things. And Franklin's explaining that, this is my job. Basically, when someone dies on the station, I have to confirm it, and so on and so forth. But, so it's kind of lighthearted. And then it gets into Franklin, performing the deeper autopsy and then finding out, what this is. And then Franklin goes to confront him.
Lazarin.
Yeah, and this is after they've brought the ship, the Marquette ship back to the station, and so this confrontation happens in the docking bay, and Franklin,
I must protest.
yeah, right. The doctor's there, trying to protect them, probably, but it's I'm a little confused about all that, because he reveals, as you mentioned, that it's basically 100% communicable, 100% fatal, and there's already been, he knows there's already been one of them on the station that shows signs of dying from this, right? The guy that they were talking about at the beginning, and at that point the bomb has kind of gone off. You can't put that back in the bottle at that point if it's true,
Right.
that it's communicated, because at least he knows he's gonna get it at that point. And then it's the question on whether this, can jump species. And since we've all lived through somewhat of a medical event in the
Funny
last
how
few
that
years,
happened.
the kind of that fear, that they portray in the show, like some of the doctors are like, "Ooh, I don't want to," and I mean everybody. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. I'll let other people talk, but the scene where Franklin is handing out the information, and everybody's just kind of looking at each other like, oh man, it's like, what's this going to turn out to be? Because they're literally facing the the death of everybody on the station, potentially.
Yeah, and as Madman just pointed out, which is, it's on my list. When the doctor is the Marquette doctor is in there examining the other species, that
The Pakmara.
yeah. He sees him taking stems, and he kind of calls him out on it. So this is obviously a building issue for the doctor.
Yeah, this is at least the second time we've seen that. Is it more than that with Franklin and the stems?
Yeah, he's done it.
I think it's third time. I think.
I noticed it too, and I was like, "This has been a couple times."
Yeah.
I could see that's becoming something.
It's becoming a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and obviously, this is back in the mid '90s, right? And so, and Franklin mentions the Black Plague, AIDS crisis, and then I think a fictional one, right? Was
right.
The Star Trek style, the whatever Cremus of Rigel 7 kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that's set for 2066.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Is that when that other Corleone something or other? I don't know.
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention that because it seems that this like the whole disease that the Mercabs have is very much reflected. Like the morality issue would be, I think would be like, just like he mentions AIDS. It would be like, it seemed very almost heavy-handed, where it was a commentary about people's reaction to AIDS virus, the whole morality issue, and you are degenerate and you are that.
Well, and that was in the background from what the doctor was saying,
and that was and still is happening in can I use the word third world countries? That does still happen today.
Oh yeah, well they've got a lot of superstitions about
in Africa and in Haiti and stuff like that.
Haiti's really bad.
Yeah, so it's not like that concept hasn't cropped up. So it is kind of history rhyming.
The other thing too is anytime you have a moral society that has any kind of faith or a religion or some kind of a creed, a belief system, whenever there's something disastrous like that, it's natural to sit there and say, okay, well, why is God punishing us? It's we do these things, we live our lives right and we do everything that we're supposed to do. Why is this happening to us? And like they explained the first time, the 1,000 years ago when this happened before, the primary place where this plague broke out was in a Sodom and Gomorrah type of island, and it burned out because the island was isolated from the rest of the population on the planet. And the moral aspect of it attached itself then because of who was the primary target of the disease. The primary vector was this island where they were, kind of doing their own thing, whatever it is they wanted to do, make you feel good.
Well, he mentioned excesses. It was known for excesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was as close because I didn't make the connection to Sodom and Gomorrah, but
I that's what jumped to my mind right away.
what really Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yeah,
because when they add when you add the moral component to it and the shame and the guilt and all of that brings to mind, well, these people on the island were probably doing something they shouldn't ought to do.
Yeah.
And they were punished for it. Because anytime you're looking at a situation where somebody is questioning why a God is punishing you, then it's for some kind of a moral transgression, a faith transgression. It's not because you jaywalked across the street. It's because there's something wrong internally in your soul, and you're like, okay, well, what have I done to make my God angry with me?
Gee, I would never jaywalk across.
And when they talk about excesses, I mean, I'm thinking, you were talking gluttony, overindulgence in wine, as well as potentially sexual ones.
They left it unspecified, but
they were very vague about it, and I mean, my mind went, of course, to leprosy, in biblical times, or the plague, in the Dark Ages, so to speak. Those are the two that really that I thought of. I'm like, oh yeah, the leper colonies, and they felt shame and they were isolated. They isolated themselves, and that does come up. I mean, at some point, because all of these people believe that they have faith that they're going to, that they're moral people, so it's not going to affect them. Yeah. So that's why they decide, because the doctor makes a very valid argument against isolating all these people together.
It just turns them into an incubator.
Well, yeah, right. When you put all these people, if somebody's got it, then you literally have sealed the fate of everybody. Whereas if they had allowed them to remain in their in their own areas, then it may not have. But of course, it turned out that it's an airborne. It's an airborne.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is it had nothing to do with any behavior anyone might have engaged in. It was airborne, like you said. So it didn't matter.
They were probably already infected,
and literally everybody on the ship would be exposed to it.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm a little questionable about this. Franklin, made the point several times that it's it's recycled air, so it's like, well, does that mean there is no filtering of this air, that could possibly take whatever the pathogen is?
Well, if you look at how technology works with a lot of this stuff with biofilters are programmed with samples of diseases. And if this thing hasn't been anywhere in the last 1,000 years, the biofilters are probably not even programmed to detect it. So it would be hard to filter it out if it doesn't know what it's looking for.
That's a Star Trek kind of thing. I'm talking about ultraviolet cleansing of
filters,
mechanical things.
Things that we know of today that we can do today.
But suffice it to say,
and they could have some sort of technology that we don't know. Like it's not even.
And it could be what Jason's saying.
It's interesting that they don't mention anything. They don't say, "Hey, maybe we should, do some sort of something." Whether it's reprogram the biofilters, which would be a Star Trek thing, or they like you said, ultraviolet rays or whatever.
Yeah, and to accentuate that, one of the when they're dealing with these dead individuals, did anybody notice that? Why was nobody wearing hazmat suits?
Yeah, they were just kind of standing outside of the door. Where,
Yeah.
I don't see. That's where I'm talking about. Is the whole thing seems to be like on kind of shaky ground in terms of validity here, right? I mean, I understand it's just a story that they're telling, but the whole thing, like, well, yeah, let's not isolate people who are contagious. It's like, well, no, I mean, even though we know we've been through that and the problems with doing that improperly, that is kind of a valid thing to consider. It's like, well, no, you don't send people that you know are contagious amongst people who aren't, because that's how it spreads. That's why they quarantine the station. Right. And then Franklin's kind of arguing against doing that. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, when they did go to quarantine, really what it should have been is they're confined to quarters is what they should have been.
Right.
And that probably would have cut this off or greatly reduced it. You know what I mean? As opposed to,
well, I guess that's why Franklin was talking about the air filter, because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's going to take the air out of there. And I don't know. The whole thing was a little.
I want to mention, did we not see them use some sort of hazmat suits in the past, like when they were examining the Vorlon? But then, Franklin goes, okay, someone's got to go in with this Mercab and check them out. And he looks at all the other doctors, and they're all looking at each other, all like, not me, man.
Didn't they do it in first season? Didn't Claire do it when he
and then
goes to Babylon?
And then the guy, and then they sent in the Mercab doctor, like he volunteers to go in. But I was just like, is no one going to wear a hazmat suit? Like, don't they have those? Haven't we seen?
How come he? Yeah, and I mean, and if you look at the attire that Franklin and the rest of his medical staff are wearing, and for that matter, the security that's just right outside this door, it's like, oh man, why are they not? Okay, I get.
Madman's making a good point here. They don't know how long it's been the hazmat suit would not be effective. Well, then why not go in the room with the guy? Then it doesn't matter, right? Like,
yeah, maybe we're getting a little. Maybe I'm guilty of that. Maybe we're getting into the weeds about it, because it's not really what the story was about. Is the details of the.
Yeah.
I mean, it just again, we've all.
But that is one of the things that broke the immersion for me.
Yeah, but I do wonder whether. At the same time, your immersion and your suspension of disbelief at this point now in 2025 is going to be different than what it was in the early 90s, because the way that stories have been told, if it had been 10 years later this show comes out, then they probably would have had a little bit more attention to detail like that for the verisimilitude. Because if you look at some of the stuff that was on the Sci-Fi Channel, with Dark Matter and Alphas and Continuum and a few others, there was a little bit more care and effort made along those lines to make everything a little bit more believable and rational in terms of the world building. So it's hindsight. You're looking at it, goes, well, why did they have hazmat suits? Well, if you're watching this in the 1990s, you're not thinking about that.
Well, he Franklin definitely was not wearing an N95 mask.
No. Right.
It was a little cheer.
I mean, all they got to do is inject some bleach, right? We forget the one big story that hit. It definitely in the UK, it was the sick building syndrome back in the 90s, and air conditioning was to blame. And I think the writers picked up on that, and it was kind of the big thing probably on the minds of air conditioning was making people ill in these big offices and
recycled air.
Oh, maybe that's why there was the mention of the air filtrator or the shared air. Or
I imagine. So if back in the 90s, I'm trying to remember how I felt. I didn't feel it was odd when I watched the episode, and I think because you were living you were living in a time where every news story was about how big office buildings were making you ill because recycled air, because everything's
chemicals
stale.
Used in the carpet or in the
absolutely
ceiling
it
tiles,
was a whole host of things.
Yeah. Well, and there's also been there's been other things like that where you what's the Legionnaire's disease?
That's right. In some of the water cooling systems and stuff like that.
Well,
So,
and it affects hospitals and nursing homes quite a bit. So, you know, they have to, and bleach is the only thing that will kill it. That's you know.
Well,
but
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I want to mention just two things here. Snugs mentioned earlier, Frank Lee's a character flaw. He's too perfect. Isn't his arrogance his flaw? And Hoot Owl mentions, the 90s pop culture, previous crisis. I mean, we forget that, like, in the mid-90s, there's all kinds of these outbreak and these kind of pandemic-type movies coming out. It was the thing, I think, in the early to mid-90s. Contagion, these kind of things.
The movie Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman and Rene Russo was about that time too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was.
That's the main one I'm thinking of, but there was a couple others as well, not as popular as that one.
But it's I mean, but the concept is not new. I mean, what did we have? Andromeda Strain and stuff like that, and much earlier than that. So
Dean, were you gonna say something?
I was going to say that the one big problem I've got with the setup, and I don't know whether I know why they said it, but it's counterproductive to how the disease would spread, and that's the 100% fatality, 100% contagion. I did a bit of research to give you an idea. Measles has an R0 factor, so this is the factor of how, if you're infected, how many people will you infect? Of 15 to 18. So if one person's got measles, they'll pass it on to about 15 to 18 other people. As a comparison, COVID has an R0 of 2 to 3. So if you've got COVID, you'll pass it on to a couple of people, and that's it. So that kind of gives you an idea of the kind of contagion. The R0 for something which is 100% contagious, bearing in mind you've got a lot of other factors here, is between 30 and 50. So it's a high number, but the problem you've got is it's the incubation period, and it's at what point are you contagious? And I was making a note through watching this, and I think it was pretty much a day, maybe 2 days from displaying of symptoms to death.
Yeah.
And
one day.
That works against the spread of the disease, because you become contagious and you're starting to spread it, but then you die very, very fast.
Isn't that something that happens with what's the one disease that has been in Africa and occasionally
Ebola.
Ebola.
Yeah. Ebola. Yeah. Ebola is very much like that too, right?
Yeah, but Ebola's passed through fluids, and this was airborne. Fluids reduce the R0 factor because you need to be now in contact with someone.
Although Tom Clancy did come up with a storyline where they made Ebola airborne.
Yeah.
But didn't they say in the briefing with Franklin that that the infection before they showed symptoms is they could have been, meaning the transmission time was a lot longer.
Yeah. So I was going to mention that because they suggested that, there was an you got the disease, you might be 2 to 3 weeks where
the incubation period is typically where you're not infectious though, because the disease is still taking hold. The reason you display symptoms is now the disease is trying to escape your body and infect other people.
Yeah. So they didn't actually discuss. I mean, I agree with you, but they didn't actually discuss that. They said, you have it for 2 to 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden you show symptoms and you die 24 hours later. They didn't suggest they didn't actually say that you were only, I mean, it makes sense, but they didn't suggest you were only infectious during that day-long period. But I mean,
right.
It
was once you from the time you first see symptoms until death is about 24 hours is what
Well, and again, you're looking at believability in the 1990s versus believability in the 2020s.
Yeah.
So
we understand a lot more about this because it's been in the news a lot more. It's been talked about a lot more. Back then, this was the stuff of movies.
Yeah. So.
Well, let me ask. So, what did you guys think of? I mean, obviously, this was a conveying of some themes here, right? So, what do you think about the approach that Straczynski took on this? And I mean, mostly portrayed through Franklin, but also the other doctor. How their commentary on, how society deals with these things.
I guess the doctors. I'm looking at it through 2020-ish lenses because. That does not seem like most doctors I know.
No.
And most doctors they're so
Sorry, you mean the McCabe doctor? The way he
no,
was
I'm talking about the people that was on Franklin's team.
okay.
Oh, they're all kind of backing away and not wanting, like none of them want to get in there with them. You know, they're all, and that just seems inconsistent with a lot of the doctors that I know. You know, so
a doctor has a moral obligation to do the best for their patients, and if by doing nothing they cause harm, then they're in breach of their Hippocratic oath. So I do agree with Jeff on that one. It was strange. It was odd seeing his entire staff, and he's got a big staff, suddenly reacting that way and refusing to go in there. When the only thing you're potentially risking there is a higher viral load because it's in a contained environment. But I believe they already knew it was airborne at that point. So yeah, it's your risk factors aren't really increasing by performing an autopsy at that point. So it felt odd that they would react that way.
They needed Franklin to have a reason to be outraged.
Exactly, and for Dr. Lazarin to have to go in. Yeah.
Did you feel on that same storyline? What about the fact that it took so long for Dr. Lazarin to come clean? I mean, he came relatively clean, early in the show, but there'd already been, 4 McCabs dead in 3 days. And he, was only when Franklin finally sort of twisted his arm that he comes clean.
That's what I'm saying. Is him hiding that fact, knowing that it was 100% communicable,
and fatal,
seems to be kind of a big ethical lapse there. Now, maybe he was well, he said he didn't know whether it could jump to a different species or not.
But he did say he was ordered to.
Okay, but
but the thing is that he and Franklin, because they touched on this, he and Franklin have known each other for many, many years. Because he tells the story about the first time he saw Franklin. You were hitchhiking on starships, performing medical services for people. Fresh young doctor with the whole xenobiology thing, where he was just excited, and we had seen this this kind of adds another piece to that puzzle where when his father came on board Babylon 5, right? And they had talked about that, and there's a couple of things we've learned that where he was kind of had wanderlust and was just going everywhere, and so this doctor and Dr. Franklin had a relationship, so you would think that he would have said, look, I'm under orders to say this, but yeah, blah blah blah. I mean, you think that relationship that because it's not like we're not talking about like knowing somebody for a year or two. He's like known him for at least 10 years or more.
Well, and knowing that Franklin probably had resources to research this and
why did he ask
maybe
for help earlier?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that didn't strike me.
I can't tell you, but I need to know. Blah blah blah. I need some. Yeah,
and especially when he doesn't it's obvious it seems to me that the McCabe doctor was obvious to him that he didn't believe the immorality, the degeneracy aspect of it. Like the politician obviously was a big believer, but he didn't really believe that. So why not tell him he's not? He could explain that his people feel that way, but he doesn't. So I'm telling you, so just keep it quiet and try to,
That was the ambassador, right?
Yeah. The ambassador was over the top, but the doctor, you think he'd say, hey, the reason, this is sensitive because our people think this. So I'm telling you it because it's important, but, just treat it sensitively when you're dealing with it.
Well, I don't know if you guys, it seems to me that the League of Unaligned or Non-Aligned Worlds are often used as kind of wild, loose cannons, that they have these wild, over the top reactions to things. And like this, for example, where, the guy's literally saying, well, no, this is because of you and your immorality. It's like, this isn't even our disease. It's, obviously disease, even if they originate with someone, are kind of not theirs. But you know what I mean? It's a disease that originated on their planet, I guess.
Right.
And then for him to turn around and try and say, well, no, it's because you have somehow done this to us, was really weird. But again, not out of line with the way they tend to use some of the aliens.
Earth went back in time 1,000 years and put this disease on the island, and then okay.
Well, and in one of the other flaws, we know it jumped species to a Pakmara.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But only one? How many Pakmara are on the ship?
Yeah, but the Pakmara typically live in alien sector, and you got airlocks and all sorts there, and a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, which is something that somebody pointed out, and Snob had it up there briefly. They kind of just, I think it was Hoot, right? They kind of skipped over the whole. They can recalibrate and change the, whatever. If you can do something like that, then it's not throughout the whole station.
Yeah, that's true. The whole station is designed to isolate people.
Right.
Yeah.
Atmospheres.
It's contrary to the canon or the lore that we has already been established at this point.
Yeah, I got a feeling there was so much that they probably wanted to chuck into this episode. So many different kind of viewpoints on dealing with something like this, from how the politicians deal with it, how the doctors, how people who are being silenced deal with it. That something had to go, and it might have been the depth, the accuracy. I would have been talking about we got to restrict access to public areas like the Zocalo where people can meet. We've got to restrict them to quarters, stuff we consider sensible now, but wasn't well known back in the 90s.
But it was, though, because I mean, the whole quarantine, the idea of quarantining people was not something that came about from COVID. I mean, this was done with other diseases in the 40s and the 50s and the 20s and stuff like that here in the United States. So that's the thing is, it's not just looking at it through a 2020 lens, because there are other things. There have been other things like this before in our own history, and aside from AIDS, what was it? What was the disease that hit just prior and up to and including World War I?
Spanish flu.
Spanish flu, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a highly contagious and spread, obviously an airborne disease and whatnot. And they even kind of hinted that you potentially could have unearthed something, even because they said something about it's possible that the disease could survive for 1,000 years and something may have re-triggered it.
Yeah.
All you need is a mosquito trapped in amber.
Yeah, right, yeah. Do you ever think about should we do it?
It does feel like a bit more research, a bit more common sense, a bit more logic could have been done around the actual disease and transmission of the disease and
the way that they reacted to it.
Yeah.
Clearly, he was trying to express something more on the moral and the ethical obligations and the way that different people would react in a given circumstance, but he didn't try to be accurate. At least he could have been much more accurate in it.
Absolutely, and of course you've got this Markev doctor who's visiting all these sick people, knowing he's going to catch this disease, and then visiting other families with it.
Right. So he's literally a super spreader.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, so what's the? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry. What's the? I lost it. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I just that was the one thing, and it made it difficult to. I'm like, okay, come on, we've all seen this before. That's kind of what I'm like. Yeah, I get it. And it was interesting. And obviously, we're moving towards, where Delenn and her underling decide they go to the captain and say, look, we need to, these people need to be comforted, because who's going to comfort us when if it does, we need to be there and whatnot. So I was a little that kind of shook me a little bit about the net result that happened.
It seems strange, because the Minbari, don't they have a saying, which is the affairs of others are not our affairs?
Yeah.
And you got Delenn now showing this incredible compassion, whereas before, up to this point, we've seen, especially with the Grey Council, the Minbari are actually really cold when it comes to people outside of their culture.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm wondering whether the merging with the human side has softened Delenn and given her that extra compassion, and this is what's coming out in this episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were because they are attracted to that type of to people that are in need, though, as well. That's been expressed too in first season.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a contradiction maybe within the Minbari. And it may depend on which caste they're in. The religious caste may be more geared towards that, as opposed to obviously the military and caste is not. But it just seems a little contradictory that yes, they're very isolationist, but then they're also not. They're also so.
I haven't. I don't think the Minbari outreach program gets a lot of good PR.
Probably not. Well, Delenn can help with that.
I remember what I was going to say. We didn't have any confirmation that what the transmission rate within the Pakmara was. It could have been different. For example, it could be much more difficult for them to transmit, one to the next.
Right. And we did learn, of course, that this particular race has yellow blood cells, and the Pakmara has the green blood cells. But they functionally are similar in where and this is what they wind up discovering, unfortunately too late, is that this disease, or this plague, if you will, causes the chemicals that allow the neurotransmitters, the synapses, to actually make that connection, make that jump from one to the next. And that was the reason why they die so suddenly. It's because if your entire nervous system is literally cut off at some point, even that autonomic response stuff, like your heart pumping and your lungs breathing, the stuff that you do whether or not consciously thinking about it.
I thought that was kind of an interesting mode that they created for the disease. It explained it well, and it was like, so it's not something that would occur to you, immediately. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That was the one bright star in the whole medical side of it. That was a unique take, and I give you that. That definitely was something that had never occurred to me. So obviously, it doesn't sound like any diseases I've heard of. Maybe Parkinson's, or something akin to that. But
they spent the money on they hired a medical guy for that part.
Did they? Yeah. Well, this is really novel.
I stepped out for a sec, but I'm wondering, do you guys talk a little bit about some of the? We're still talking about Franklin. What about? Did you think anybody find it strange? He's talking to his doctors to motivate them. He's kind of yelling at them, and he's like berating them a little bit. Do it faster. I mean, it's been my experience that usually, that works on privates in the army or something like that. But usually when you're dealing with people who are a little more intelligent and academic types, that's not the way to motivate them by yelling at them. Did anyone think that was a little strange? Or
yeah, you can't.
Well, he could be yelling at them a little bit because of the pushback he got from them.
Yeah, and also we're now seeing his addiction to stims come out. I think, and that's the irritableness, the short patience, the quick to anger. Yeah,
that's an interesting aspect.
Yeah. Because clearly he should know. He's a doctor. He should know.
Yes, but he is smart enough because he's a doctor. He can quit at any time.
Oh,
He's totally
absolutely.
Absolutely in control.
That is pretty typical of those guys.
Yeah.
On that aspect, I guess it probably everyone would agree, or maybe not. Later on, when he starts destroying things, like I thought that was very counterproductive.
It was.
All I saw was the glass going everywhere, and I thought that's just an accident waiting to happen.
That car was placed there specifically for him to throw it over.
I was like, "Uh-oh, here it comes."
No, for sure.
Like,
but I'm just saying that like that's like the worst thing. If you were a doctor, that'd be the worst thing you do. Oh, I'm going to destroy this stuff, so I have to redo all this work and perhaps contaminate everything, and
I don't
that's
know.
not how you.
That piece of equipment that was shaking after it, I don't think that was planned. That would have taken.
No, when he kicked it, he kicked it into the cabinet there at the desk.
Yeah. I don't think that was intentional. I think that was kind of a, oh crap, because if we break that, then.
I don't know about you guys, but I have definitely been to that level of frustration in my life.
But you're not a doctor.
Plenty of time.
You wouldn't destroy your own work that you just spent, God knows, hours doing.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that it makes sense. I'm just saying that,
that's my point.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I understand he's mad, but if we look at it as stim addiction, I think that's the only way to look at it. Like for me, to have it make sense, because doctors don't do that. I mean, you shouldn't. I mean,
Well, you wouldn't damage something that you're trying to find a cure for, or at the very least, trying to put a kibosh on it, slow it down.
I don't know. I've worked in IT, and I did software engineering, and I've done a lot of coding in the past. And trying to find the reason why your piece of code is not working drives you to that level of frustration.
But would you throw your computer that has all your code on it?
It got close a few times, but no, generally not.
You've thought about it, but you're like, I'm going to go destroy something else.
Yeah.
I'm
this close to
something.
Yeah, I'm this close to solving it, and I can't solve it. So I'm going to destroy all the work I did prior to that.
I'm
going to have to restart.
I've destroyed computer equipment before. I had a tape drive back in the 80s that failed to load, and I lost everything. Like the 30th time, it's like that hit the cement outside. So
yeah,
but you already lost it though, right?
Yeah.
Like it's already done. Like it's not like, hey, I did all this work. It'd be like an engineer. I built this bridge and I just can't get the last part in there, so I'm going to destroy the whole bridge. And then
I think it would have been more accurate if he had gone into his office or gone into his quarters and
punched
maybe
the wall.
His quarters,
screamed,
something like that. That would have been more accurate, I think, because that's the type of thing I would do. I would, especially in my younger years, I would punch the drywall, and then I had to fix the drywall. My dad made sure of that. I got really good at fixing drywall. Nowadays, I was like, I want to punch it, but it's such a pain in the ass to fix.
I think Vicky is spilling some tea there.
Yes, I've gone through a few keyboards.
Well, but that's a keyboard. Okay, that's a little different. Trust me, I'd love to smash the keyboard.
I wouldn't pick up a monitor and throw the monitor out the window or do anything like that. It's a keyboard is one level of frustration. I normally have like something soft or squidgy or
yeah, that's right.
Stress ball of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely, and it doesn't happen often. But I understand that level of frustration. That not knowing where to go, not knowing where to look, every avenue has come up short, and you're just desperate. On top of that, you got the stim addiction. He's probably coming off a set of stims. He wants to go on another set of stims. That's playing in his mind, and he's just lost a friend, who's just died in front of him. And yeah, I can understand. I don't think reason was part of that scene, and I think the scene was actually well played out. He lashed out for the first thing he could. There was a trolley right next to him. He just grabbed it, threw it onto the floor. He had to just get that energy out of him. and he wasn't thinking straight. So I actually think that was a good scene.
Okay. I just
I
the fact that
think it's only a good scene
kinda.
if it's we look at it stimulation. Like to me, that's the only only from that aspect.
There's a lot of factors
otherwise,
there.
it's without that, it's really like that's the last thing I think that a doctor would do. But yeah.
Well, certainly, and the possibility of cross contamination and that has to have been, that would come on a doctor's mind, and potential, knowing chemistry, who knows, potentially mixing chemicals could be volatile and dangerous in and of itself, and so
is there anything more about? I wanted to talk maybe a bit about Delynn and Sheridan, and what, or sorry, maybe a little bit more Delynn, what she does.
Well, we kind of got. I kind of opened the door on that probably when you were out the door.
Is there anything about Franklin or any more we want to do about this aspect of it? We can come back to it if we want to, but.
I mean, he comes up and he manages to get 500 doses of this, right after, conveniently, which is kind of cheesy a little bit in my opinion. Right after, what's his name again, Lazarin passes away. Then and he does this little destruction scene. The computer says cross analysis of red blood cells and green blood cells complete. It's like. Well,
the thing that stood out to me that was kind of strange, and Snob, this is getting to your point because there's a Delynn thing here, but it's like, did they not have any communications between them? Because they go in there and it's like, oh, they're all dead. It's like, did Delynn and Lanier just sit there and be like, well, they're all dying.
Well, they did call. They said that they called and nobody responded, and that's when they decided to go in. Well, clearly, Delynn and Lanier were alive, so why did they not respond?
Yeah. Well, that the other aspect of that too is to Camp's point, they should have been in contact constantly throughout this whole ordeal, and not just throw them in there. You give Delynn a way of communicating outside the isolation zone, so that she can keep people updated. Okay, well, how is this? Because you don't have, Franklin doesn't have medical staff in there to observe. Right. So it would make sense to have somebody inside. Okay, Delynn volunteered. Report back the progress of this disease and how it's moving from one person to another, or how it's manifesting. So the more information they have, the more they can research it and maybe find a cure. And they didn't have any of that.
And it might have actually helped ramp up the impending pressure to for the audience, for us watching it, knowing we've lost 27 patients have now succumbed to the, we're up to 39, we're up to 72. It would have added that little,
the countdown clock.
Yeah. Even though in the end the countdown, we learned that the countdown clock basically expired because everybody dead.
I want to mention the whole fact that what did Delynn and Lanier? What were they going to do? They go in there with nothing. Were they going to just give people hugs, and pat them on the back? Like, they don't bring blankets, water, nothing. They just go in.
Comfort them.
They're going to give them hugs.
They did. Hugs. No, they did bring some stuff in with them. I mean, a few packs of something. Obviously, it wasn't a large amount of supplies or anything. But I don't.
People there, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they should have brought food in and water and at least stuff to treat or to help with the pain or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I can wave my arms on that and say, yeah, there it was done. Even though we didn't see it.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, but we just see the two of them walking in and they close the big steel door. It's the steel door.
Slam it shut.
Yeah.
Keep those dirty aliens away from us.
Okay, so Snob, you wanted to talk about Delynn and Sheridan then?
Well, I wanted to mention that aspect of it. Maybe we should go with the. Why don't we? Madman has brought it up in the chat. Why don't we talk a little bit about the ambassador, the Marcab ambassador, his reactions, or did you guys mention that? Did I miss it?
Well, I mentioned the ambassador. And I believe Dean as well. About the conflict between the way that Lazarin was versus the ambassador coming from a political aspect versus a medical aspect, and obviously, the politician's gonna politic and try and blame everybody else, and it's not our people. We're gonna spy by our faith, and let's rally the people, and we're gonna all go isolate ourselves to get ourselves away from you unclean aliens. Talking about everybody else on the station, and of course that's just accelerated things. But
I think the ambassador's approach, blaming everybody but themselves, is a classic politician kind of approach, which is it's never my problem. It's always someone else's problem. Here's the reason why I'm right. Here's the reason why you're wrong. Vote me back into power, please. And we see that thread throughout, where the doctor himself is even saying the politicians are too scared. They don't want to be singled out. They don't want to look at the truth because the people will think that they're somehow unclean. They're looking at being voted back in. And then when you put the pieces together, we had the question, why did the doctor not bring this up earlier while he was under instructions not to? And I don't know what the funding sort of structure was within the Marquette Society, but the doctor probably depended on his position and his funding from the government. So if he went against the government, he loses all of that. So he had to toe the line. And we see it with the ambassador as well. The ambassador's like, no, we are not unclean. We have followed our religious texts. We are moralistic people. So you must be the unclean people who brought this disease to us.
And now there are non-existent people.
Yeah.
Obviously we learn that all of the people that were in that isolation area, with the exception, of course, of Delenn and Lanier, are gone, including the little girl that Delenn was comforting. And, there's several touching moments where she's, consoling this little girl that's lost her mother, and Lanier goes to find Mama, because that's apparently the only name that the child knows is Mama, and finds her, and of course then she runs off to her mama, and then she kind of shakes in a dizzy manner, and you're like, and you could see the look in Delenn's eyes. She knows at that point that this child has contracted this, and they kind of jumped from that to the next moment where everybody's dead.
Yeah, that could be explained by the fact you've got all these people in one place. The viral load could have been so high that 24 hours of incubation and death got shortened to 16 to 12.
Maybe.
I'm going to push back a little bit on what Dean said before about politicians, because I try to put a good show up here all the time, and Cam's always bringing me down, making things harder. He's the reason we don't have things. The subs are going down. So I mean, it's not always.
But did we lose a sub? We did. We're at 635. We were at 636.
But anyway. So do we want to talk about okay, so I think Madman is he's mentioning, is this the kind of I think you were mentioning this to me earlier, Dean, the whole rebuke that Sheridan gets a little bit. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's I personally, I think it was quite out of touch of Sheridan to say that, but they're not your kind. And I felt that was odd for Sheridan, who at this point was shown to be an ambassador for Earth. He was good at going into the non-aligned worlds and helping them deal with their problems. And now all of a sudden he's taking this very sort of isolationist view. But I guess it was done to give Delenn this moment in the spotlight. where she
Yeah.
could come forward and say, look, just because they're not like us doesn't mean they don't deserve compassion. And she does this lovely sort of speech. I think I got it here, where she talks about, where was it? I understand the risk. The disease is limited only to Markeb. What was it? It was, hang on. But she talks about how I didn't know that being like me was necessary to share compassion with people. So it was a touching moment, and I think it was done to bring the relationship of Delenn and Sheridan a bit more to the forefront. And as Jason alluded to earlier, a lot of relationships in these long-running sci-fi shows are done based on fan reaction, whereas this one was planned right from the start.
Yeah.
I assumed this was supposed to be Sinclair in this spot.
I kind of got that
imagine so,
feeling
yeah.
too. Yeah, that this was this was supposed to be Sinclair and Delenn.
I mean,
getting
Sheridan doesn't even know for sure if his wife is dead yet. Like, he
No.
thinks she might be dead, but right? Like,
If it was Sinclair saying those words, I think that would be so in fitting with the character. Sinclair was very much, as much as he was a bit of an ambassador, a bit of a diplomat, he didn't have a great trust of the other aliens because of the Battle of the Line.
But yeah. Conversely, Sheridan does have compassion for the other races.
Yeah, and that's why I found his line a little bit jarring. But I think it was designed to lead into this moment between him and
are they also trying to show his blooming desire for Delenn as well, like concern for her, maybe?
Yeah.
Clearly, they were trying to build up that moment because she's like, if I ever see you again, and he's like, well, when you see me again, call me John. And
I agree. I think it was to provide that moment primarily, even though I do agree it was out of character.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe it wasn't his perspective, but his understanding of the way the Minbari were that he was perhaps questioning. It just didn't. It was awkward.
Yeah.
The way it was written was awkward. It would have maybe made some. Well, I thought the Minbari were only concerned primarily about their own species, and but instead he was like, since when did the Minbari do this? Just the way it came off. But I don't know. It was interesting. And clearly, there was, you could see the tears welling up in her eyes, and she touches his hand and she touches his face, and and it was clearly they're having a moment. That was obvious.
Yeah.
And
I think as actors though they pulled off that moment quite well. It was very touching.
Delenn did, she did a great job in that scene for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And somebody noted that when Delenn and Lanier were leaving, that there was tears on Lanier's face because of the tragedy that they had witnessed, and then basically that's probably the most tragic thing Lanier has seen in his life, up close and personal, like especially because he had been in acolyte school or whatever the heck it is for how, most of his life, right? So, and this is his first big assignment was to Delenn outside of, his training. So, but yeah, no, that's his first, his first big, oh my God, or gods or whatever they believe in, type of moment.
Cam, have you missed anything? Anything you want to bring up?
No, that's it was a pretty straightforward episode overall, so I really don't have any other details.
I'll mention, what about the inappropriate joke at the end? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, before we even get to that, the news report that they're watching that leads up to this, where they're talking about, the entire population of the planet, 2 billion people. Only 2 billion people on this planet, really? It's a pretty small population, and
that was pretty stark. I mean, it was like, I mean, they just dropped it. It's like, yeah, that whole race is just gone. I mean, it's like, what? But they did mention that there might be some isolated groups of them out there.
And I don't know if there are any survivors of that, of their species that did survive. But of course, they said, for all intents and purposes, and then that's, the bartender cuts it off and starts making some snarky remark, and I'm surprised. I don't know.
There's a thing in the UK called gallows humor. And I think it was a touch on that, which is in the face of tragedy, we try and find something lighthearted and comedy. And it's not to be disrespectful. It's just to, acknowledge the situation, but also to provide some levity to those people around you. And I wonder whether it was an attempt at gallows humor.
It may have been.
I mean, I'm pretty familiar with it, and that just didn't seem like. It didn't seem much like it, like, because it was just, it's like one of those, how many, what do you call 100, 100 lawyers at the bottom of the sea, a good start, right? Like that, it was that kind of humor. It wasn't really gallows. You don't say that right after, a bunch of lawyers were killed or something, right? Like that's just,
right.
It just seemed really inappropriate to me. I think it was there for Sheridan to,
well, it was
too soon too.
Doctor sitting there.
Yeah. I think it was there for not Sheridan, Franklin to sort of shake his head, and for Straczynski to make a comment on the fact that humans, we don't change. We are still stuck in this. We still lack compassion, that kind of thing. And and doesn't Franklin say nothing changes? That's his last thing he says.
Yeah.
He turns and says nothing
that
changes.
that whole thing at the bar is there specifically to set up that line.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that seemed a little stretched to me. I mean, again, well, who knows, because we don't have aliens. But imagine saying, "Oh, this whole race has just been wiped out," and being like, "Ha ha ha!" It's like,
and that's 2 billion people. Like that is we've had some pretty horrible things here on Earth with mass genocides and stuff, but this is 2 billion people. Like we have never fathomed something like that. Like, what would that planet be with nothing but dead bodies all around?
I mean, to be fair, that's like the population of India or China.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
again,
that's all that's on
two
the
Chinas.
world.
Two Chinas, maybe.
Tiny?
This isn't a society, meaning the Earth Society. While they are discussing a lot about how Earth first and not being favorable of aliens or anything, but it's not a society that is like, oh yeah, we just think of other aliens as ants or something, right? That's not what's established. So it seemed. That seemed over the top to me.
It did. And, like I said, it's just kind of, I think it was to give Franklin an excuse to mumble, and I think it's clear that he was trying to connect two types of things that, happened with some of the previous diseases that we had mentioned happening in history, historically, but also commentary on a particular group of people that might, not be liked by other people, that bad guys in WW2 tried to get rid of, and that type of thing, So I think it may have been kind of a commentary on all of that, because clearly there's this there's some ideology underlying in a certain percentage of even the human population that the Night Watch group and put on your armband and that type of thing,
right.
and so you get the impression. Now if Garibaldi had been there and said something that would have maybe made the scene a little bit better.
You know what? We skipped that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeff. We did have a scene with Garibaldi when some humans were beating up on the Marca, and Garibaldi, beat the crap out of them. And, because Garibaldi kind of had that little bit of like, I really don't want to die kind of thing, earlier. They all did at the staff meeting, and Garibaldi was like, no, I'm doing my job and I'm helping this guy,
Yeah.
Even though he was it's like, well, that's the guy that's probably most likely to be carrying this. But he literally like picked the guy up and helped him,
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit.
Pause for a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, you gonna say that, Dean, as well?
No.
You said pause for a second. We paused.
We paused. I found it a bit odd. You got this fear of these people being contagious. So the first thing that comes into these vagrants or brigands' minds is to go beat up one of them.
Yeah, let's go.
And to bloody what if they don't know that it's airborne.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah,
know
but even if it's by contact, you're then contacting your fist with their face, and it's
making them bleed on you.
Exactly.
Well, it's perfectly
just
safe.
felt
It's not
again
transmitted by fluids. It's okay to beat them up.
Yeah.
No one ever said criminals were smart.
On you.
Yeah. But I guess it was to show bring Garibaldi into an episode that he wouldn't have been in otherwise, and to show him. Yeah.
There was really not. He was in there just a couple of times, and it was just because he's a regular.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good moment for him, though.
No, it was a good moment. It was very fleeting. It was just a quick flash in the pan moment. I think it would have been, like I said, if Garibaldi had been sitting there next to the bar consoling the doctor. And the bartender said this crap, and and then the doctor, the doctor said, what he said, and Garibaldi would have gone, hey, blah blah blah, some line about, that's not who we are, that's not who we should be, or something like that,
Well,
kind of putting him in place. That would have been.
I thought that Franklin was going to go off on him, for a second. I'm like,
me too.
But I'm kind of glad he didn't, because he already had his outburst earlier. Maybe this would have been better if this was, the point where he had an outburst. What do you guys think?
Well, it would have made more sense to me because he's not destroying his own lab. However, I don't think it would fit in as well with the whole. If we're saying that the reason that Franklin is going off is because of the stims, which I think is what they're trying to set up.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't make as much sense because we're assuming that he's having a drink at the bar. He's already off stims. He's taken, he's rested, whatever. He's not in that same pressure cooker situation. So,
have we seen the doctor at the bar frequently before, though? So maybe they're building to something, or they're pointing to it's not just the stem use. Now he's turned to other substances as well.
Well, I think if they were trying to say that, they would have shown him like staggering when he gets up, or obviously drunk. Like just we don't see that. So
yeah, and of course the bartender at the very end starts to go through, I've heard it's the Vorlons, they infected them and stuff like this. And I wonder whether, because again, early 90s conspiracy theorists and stuff like that had a bit of a name.
Yeah.
In fact, you had that film with Mel Gibson, was it? Conspiracy Theory?
Also,
Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts.
Yeah, maybe. It was a terrible film, but yeah.
Maybe it would have been better if the bartender had one of those armbands on,
Yeah, and the X-Files, of course. So it was an interesting nod at the very end about how.
I think that's what he's trying to comment on, Straczynski.
Yeah,
conspiracy theory aspect. All right. Did we miss anything? Anybody?
No, I think we got it all.
I think we did. I just wanted to mention, last thing I want to mention was that I did like the scene where Franklin is briefing everybody. Like it's the first time we've seen, not just the command staff, the key people, we've seen other people, and that they actually, it is actually a military organization where they're holding briefings, and it's
Yeah, they
not
had
just
some.
talking to the the four people who are the main cast members from the command staff. So I thought that was a good scene. Having the extras, the doctors, and additional people in there. That was I liked that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. There's not much. I didn't expect much comment on that, but all right. Well, if we've hit everything, all right. Last thoughts. Ratings, if you want to give it. Jason, why don't you go?
Oh, well, I'd say probably on this one, if I'm giving it a rating, I'd go probably 8, 7.5, 8, leaning more toward 8. I think it's pretty solid all the way around from a standpoint of the self-contained story. It doesn't drop anything in terms of plot threads. It doesn't have very many holes in it. And I like the fact that all of the entry points got us there. I like what we're seeing so far with Sheridan and Delenn. The fact that she's now able to address him by first name. This is something that I think is lost in modern society. We're not polite enough that our neighbors are Mr. and Mrs. until they tell you can use their first names. Our younger generations don't understand any of the polite manners that we grew up with. So when he sits there and says, hey, you can call me John. For a lot of my life, it's Mr. and Mrs. until they say otherwise. It's not, because mom and dad were very, very solid about that. It's, no. You're going to be polite. You're going to call them Mr. and Mrs.
Mhm.
And then they sit there and say, oh, you can call me John. But the other aspect of that too, for the military, and this is something I've noticed in David Weber's Harrington books, the Navy, when you have, and I don't know how much this is in our military, but commanding officers, for a commanding officer to address a subordinate by their first name kind of gives them a little bit of a special tick on the page. It's now you're one of the captain's
Favorites?
well, not necessarily favorite, but you're favored.
You're
And
captain.
you've been given a privilege that the captain is addressing you by first name instead of your position or your rank or your last name. You get your first name from the captain, then that's a boost up. And I think maybe it's kind of the same thing here. Yes, you're an ambassador. You're a pretty high ranking person. And yeah, I'm the captain of the station. You can address me as equals. Is basically what he's doing right there. He's putting them on equal footing, whereas before, she's maybe a little bit higher up because she's an ambassador. It's a political position, and he's just the captain. His rank is just captain. So I'll be interested to see where that goes and how that develops. So, but yeah, pretty solid episode all the way around.
Dean?
I think the episode is a good episode. There are elements that I find jarring about it. The disease, the stuff they talked about, all the stuff we've talked about, the lack of hazmat suits, but these are more technical aspects to the story. And if you kind of ignore them, you put the fourth wall back up, you just kind of gloss over. What I really take away from this episode is the relationship growing between John and Delenn, and I think that is done really well. I think what Delenn goes through with Lanier, the little bit of humor at the start was a nice way to ease you into what is actually quite a heavy episode that doesn't have. I think from that point on, there is no comedic moments at all, as it should be when you're talking an episode of this nature. too often we have TV shows where you got something serious happening and then they drop in a joke and it just breaks the moment. So yeah, it is a good episode. And yeah, I think it's a fair score, around about 8 out of 10. I think that's a fair score.
I guess to mention a little bit about what Jason said about military courtesy. Now, I don't know the Navy so much, but within Commonwealth nations such as Canada and Britain, it's fairly normal for the commanding officer. He might address the other officers by their first names, and that's kind of a courtesy sort of thing. It's kind of to promote the fact that you are all officers and gentlemen, and you're someone on the same level in a sense. However, the officers would never refer to him by their first name. And that is a bit of a Commonwealth thing. I don't know if it's a U.S. military thing, but it wouldn't normally be used in the Commonwealth armies to show favoritism, other than the fact that the commanding officer is recognizing that you are a brother officer, even though you're greatly outranked. But you get the, and I think it's much more in Canadians. We kind of do things half and half. The Brits are much more like this. Whenever I worked with them, I would see the commanding officer openly calling his fellow officers by their first names in meetings and everywhere.
Yeah.
And he'd just say, "Oh, Bob, what do you think? Brief us on this or that." So, yeah, again, that's the Army, though. I don't know about the Navy.
Well, and that's similar to what I was saying. The commanding officer to address anybody as a first name, it doesn't go the other way. It's not reciprocal for the subordinates to address the captain by first name. In that case, when the captain earns the respect of the crew, you generally get skipper. It is like with the Navy, and you get that nickname. Or something to that effect, as opposed to a first name. So it's captain this, captain that, until you've earned the stripe, and then if they start calling you skipper, then you guys are all on the same page and working together pretty well, and it's a well-oiled machine by then.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff.
Well, man, I don't want to be the party pooper, but I was leaning towards a 6.5, to be honest.
Oh, boo.
Yeah.
No,
I can respect that. Yeah.
Some of the stuff, the technical details where they just, I'm like, they should have been wearing. We've seen hazmat suits, man. They should have been wearing them. I guess the bright points, of course, maybe pushes it to a 7. The whole Delenn did an excellent job in that. Sheridan's was a little awkward. The way he phrased things was kind of awkward, but I thought Delenn was excellent in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
No faults for her. Lanier as well. The doctor was a little over the top. In some essences, I didn't like the way he was trashing the med bay. I think it would have been better if he had, gone into a closet and just, torn shit up or something like that, gone into his quarters, or just, and flipped his coffee table over and wiped everything off the counter and that type of stuff, but in the actual med bay, that kind of shook me a little bit. Also the lack of communication with the people, there was just a lot of detraction things. So I think at best it would be, for me to give, it would be a 7, and that's pushing it.
I was thinking about the hazmat suit thing, and I want to say, and I'd have to go back and look at it again, but I want to say that there's a line from Franklin. I want to say something having to do with the fact that they've known this disease was on the station and never told him. And who knows how long it's been. And basically the idea is, we've already all been exposed. So a hazmat suit at
So
this
that's
point
an
probably
excuse,
would not even.
though?
Well, I mean, if we've already been exposed, then putting on protective gear is kind of fixing the barn door after the horse has already run out.
But you don't know if you've been infected.
Well, that's
So
true.
at that point, you should still take those protocols. You should
And Dean would say viral load.
clearly, there are not protocols that have been expressed in this episode. The protocols. There weren't any, and that irked me that there was just no protocols, no medical protocols at all for anything. And and I mean, he's wearing the sheerest scarf that you ever seen. Is supposed to be his mask, and he's not. And that when Lazarin goes in there, he should have been in a hazmat suit, putting gloves on and stuff like that, and that would have, I think, added to the drama a little bit to see that they're taking it seriously. That even if everybody's infected, the potential possibility that he may not have been, or that any one of them might not have been. And they're dealing with these people, and also the quarantine thing. I mean, it's like, no, you should have quarantined them, isolate them to their quarters, and
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, yeah.
And Clay, I want to answer something real quick on Clay's point about for Captain Picard. Beverly was the only one that called him Jean-Luc for the longest time, not the rest of the crew. Riker did toward the end of the show. I think Riker might have mentioned it a couple of times, but for the most part, Beverly was the only one, and that's because she had a history with him before they were on the ship.
Well,
I mean, she was married to his best friend.
Yeah.
And they had a thing too, so that was there. And yeah, Q addressed him as Jean-Luc, but Q wasn't part of the crew.
But that was also to put Jean-Luc down in front of his crew by addressing him by first name.
Yeah.
When everybody else on the bridge would call him Captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing too is the only other people that called him Jean-Luc were fellow captains or admirals or ambassadors, or civilians,
people
his
that knew him. Yeah.
Former girlfriend type thing. Yeah, none of the rest of them said anything. I don't think anybody ever called him Jean-Luc.
And that's keeping with military protocol for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, even in the old Star Trek, in the original series, I mean, Bones called Captain Kirk Jim.
Yeah.
A lot of times, but they had been best friends prior to being assigned onto the ship.
Right.
Yes.
And the only other times you got anybody addressing Kirk as Jim from the crew was an emotional outburst. There was one from Scotty when they were trapped on the Mirror Universe Enterprise, and Kirk was like, okay, I'll stay behind. And Scotty addressed him as Jim at that point. And then Spock's done it a couple of times,
right?
But these were emotional outbursts. It wasn't normal pattern of behavior. So,
yeah, and especially in Wrath of Khan, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I was going to say is I know Straczynski supposedly wrote the rest of this season. From what I had seen, I think the last episode, or was it a couple episodes ago, that was not written by him. I actually question if this one was written by Straczynski.
I think it was. I mean, he's credited as it
with it.
Yeah,
for sure, but
and he so much has said so in that thing that there was 3 episodes this season, and I think we had already hit all 3. In this one, I'm like, is this one of the ones? Did we make a mistake? Was this one of the ones that he didn't write? Because it didn't have the Straczynski polish that I think I've come to expect from some of the really good episodes. And so maybe that was why, I was like, just me, but I'll stick with the 7, I think.
Cam.
Well, Jeff, you're going to have a little bit of company because I I don't think this was a great episode. I I was watching it and I was kind of like, it's my classic hot button annoyance, which is this is not really a main storyline episode. It's a standalone. Um, and so I don't like it from that standpoint. And then, all these little details that didn't really fit together. Uh, you know, bring it down for me. But and to be honest with you, I think it's kind of heavy-handed too. I think it's a little bit up on a high horse, and so I don't like it for all those reasons. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, as an episode, a standalone episode, it kind of worked. I mean, it did come together generally well if you ignore some of those details. And I thought the characterizations were pretty good, and it did have some good points to it. So I can't say no, I hated this or anything like that. But for my personal preference, I can't really go above a 7 on this one. But I think a 7.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Jason and Jeff. I agree with the problems that Jeff mentions, but they like Jason. I don't think they didn't really hit with me. Like I didn't, those problems. I don't know. Maybe I'm drunk, whatever. But they didn't seem to bother me that much. I mean, there's a lot of them, but they're kind of minor. But I don't know. I seem to overlook with it, and I kind of go with what Cam said. I found myself enjoying it, even though there's, like I said, there's a lot of small little things that don't make sense. Some of the stuff you wonder about, but I still enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It being a standalone episode, looking back,
and being a Franklin episode.
Yeah. Cam hates Franklin, not me. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably my least favorite character.
It harkened me back to when I've complained earlier on this season and last season about being like those phony, over the top 70s medical dramas, where it's like that's the way that Franklin's portrayal and some of the things came off to me. It kind of harkened me back to that, if you will.
So I guess it didn't really, some of those problems didn't really bother me. I found myself enjoying the episode overall, even though I tend to be like Cam. I prefer the ones that are pushing the storyline. So I mean, I'd probably kind of split the difference. Like, if I had to give it a number, 7.5 or stuff, but surprisingly better than I thought it would.
Well, and we did have that reminder at the beginning of the episode for the main storyline. Just a tweak there with Kefir, just to remind the audience. Yeah, we know this is still out there. We're coming back to it.
Yeah. That's a good little hook for.
Yeah, there was little nuggets in this that were little shining stars, breadcrumbs for the future, and some throwback or ties to some previous episodes clearly. And as I said at the beginning of the show here, when you gave the trivia things, it makes you wonder if maybe that alien had contracted that and he was effectively trying to take care of himself.
That's what I first thought.
Yeah,
that was some sort of, but then it was some sort of alien. I don't know. Can't be the same. No, maybe.
Could have been both. Maybe where did he catch it? He was out in that sector where, strange things happen, and maybe he did. Maybe the shadows did wake up something in their people.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a tie that we don't know about yet, and who knows?
Yeah. Good point. Okay, let me go through the trivia questions, and then we'll finish off the show. All right. So, trivia questions for this week. What is the name of the disease killing the Mercabs? Once infected, how long is there between symptoms and death? Who goes into the isolation area to comfort and aid the dying Mercab? That's like the 4,000 of them that are dying. What does Franklin use to keep himself awake while searching for a cure? And what do you call 2 billion dead macarbs? Yeah. Okay. Answers next week, of course. And find out. Promotions, guest promotions. Dean, what do you got?
Yes, still working on the complimentary adventure. It'll be out at the end of this year. So follow me either on YouTube or on X, and there'll be new news coming. I'm also doing a lot of shorts. So if you're into tabletop roleplay, want to understand a few more mechanics on it in Untold Destiny, pop along to our YouTube channel, have a look at the shorts on there. Nice snippy little bits using Roll20 to demonstrate some of the combat nuance we have in our system.
And that's Dean's YouTube in the chat I just put in. So yeah. All right, Jason.
A minute ago.
Well, I'm still recovering from the 900 we did on Saturday. Our 900th episode ran almost 6 hours, and we had a number of different interviews and conversations that day. So you go back and take a look. Eventually, I'm going to cut those out individually. This coming Saturday, we have the Walking and Rolling costume reveal party, which is a thing we do every year. Walking and Rolling Costumes is a nonprofit organization that builds costumes for kids with wheelchairs and walkers and special needs and stuff. And so we'll be broadcasting. They've been building a number of costumes, and Saturday is when they give them to the kids and the families, and they have the big reveal party. And here's the costume, and wow. So that's going to start at 3 p.m. Central on Saturday. And tomorrow, I think we'll talk about the D&D artwork.
Well, if you're going to do that, you need to talk about some of the artwork that I've put out there. I think you've shown it once or twice, right? There's some more artwork that's come out that I can drop in the Discord for the channel too, for you to look at some sketch artwork.
That one in particular, though, that's floating around right now, I'll probably be able to do at least an hour on it.
they seem to love the pastel colors.
Oh yeah,
and
the more I look at it, the more I hate it, and the more I find reasons to hate it. And I don't even play D&D right now, so we'll get into it.
Do a comparison. Show this is what you're getting from WotC, and this is what you're getting from other people.
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, it's like night and day. And then the whole thing with the new Breezy book.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit, because I think people are making assumptions on that without knowing much, because I've seen some people talking about, I know Rob Salvatore. I know, I've read all of these books. It's probably not going to be Mary Sue Girl Boss like a lot of people are assuming. So yeah, we'll see.
But the person, the little, did you watch the little trailer I dropped in there?
And no, I haven't had a chance to yet. But a lot of people are saying a lot of people are saying that's. Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's a bad marketing choice rather than a story thing.
Yeah, so, it should have been a female. They used obviously a male, trying to not even trying to sound female, maybe trying to sound softer. Oh, at any rate, it'll be a good discussion tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow.
Yes,
at 1 o'clock, right?
1 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Well,
and that walking and rolling it's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
These are really intricate costumes. I mean, it's pretty cool. I recommend anybody, if you like that stuff, go ahead and see it. And of course, I mentioned we got Madman Q2 Cast, his show on Thursday as well. So if you're interested in that, Jeff.
Oh, I'm gonna be there, doing my duty while I'm, doing my other duties. So you'll probably see me there, on the discussion. But in the meantime, I've got a couple of videos I got to put up on my Tennessee Tabletop Tavern channel, and I'm still hoping to be able to put together this panel discussion on with Jason. So we'll make more once we've got that all nailed down. But I think it'll be an interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Cam.
Well, this Sunday on Top Lofty Lounge at 11 p.m. Eastern, we are doing a retrospective or a review or a watch party on Flash Gordon from what,
Movie
19?
night.
Yes, everyone knows Flash
He'll
Gordon.
save every one of us.
Yep. So that should be a fun time.
All right. Yeah. Excellent. Of course. And remember that those of you caught in late.
What?
We just.
What?
Sorry. What?
Rob Schneider's ex Twitter account's been nuked.
His ex Twitter account?
Well,
Okay.
Twixer, Twitter, X, whatever you is. Rob Schneider's been nuked on Twitter. What's up with that?
Breaking news. Okay. So next week on this show, Divided Loyalties, episode 19, and Outpost Nerd is going to be our guest.
Yay! Cool.
Our guest panelist. And those of you who came in late a little bit, we on the channel Sci-Fi Snob, we just passed the milestone of 3,000 watch hours that we needed to pass. So we are in the process of. I've applied for monetization. So we might be able to be doing, it's supposed to take 24 hours and then maybe up to between 2 to 4 weeks after that. And then maybe we'll be able to squeeze a little money out of the AdSense and, be able to do super chats if you want, memberships, all that good stuff. So
the world's going to open up.
Who knows? Who knows? See what happens. That's the other big news that's coming up.
That's awesome.
So that's about it. Join us next on for Flash Gordon. Watch Flash Gordon, the movie. Link is in the show notes. Watch it and then discuss it with us on Sunday night.
I can't wait, man. This is going to be awesome.
It'll be fun. I think we'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
That's it, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you, your information in the chat and our great comments. And we'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Only 4 episodes left.